Chris, I think it's time that we relaunch the show in a new direction.
Oh, what's that?
I think that today's manga consuming people, they don't want, jokey jokes and fun times and diversions. They want stuff to be taken seriously. So we're gonna rebrand the show as weekly manga.
Okay.
Fuck recap.
Fuck the recap.
And we better get ourselves some new theme songs. So let's get a slowed down version of a song that nobody likes, that no one will actually even be able to identify. But it'll be, it'll feature, like soft singing,
What about All-Star or Smash Mouth When the Morning Comes?
Okay. I don't even know that song.
Yeah, that's that. And it's a song nobody likes. When the morning comes. But we change it. When the manga comes. Boom.
So we're gonna change it a little bit, and we're gonna, have some slow piano music and a tortured sounding female singer.
Okay.
And we're going to have Annalise is going to come in. We're going to be the ones that she's been looking for because there is a monster inside of her. There's a darkness, but her mother's told her that monsters aren't real, and where people are going to look at us, and they're going to just remember us from the Transmission Awesome days. So they're going to be like, "Where's Sean and Pa?" And we'll be like, "Fuck Sean and Pa."
I mean, I do shout that regularly, though. Should we I'll have to amp it up.
I'll be like, yeah. I went to bed, Chris, this morning, directly after I saw the trailer for the new Titans show online. Like, it was, late for me, because I work at night and I sleep in the day, and it's like, 10:30 in the morning, and all of a sudden I see people talk about Titans, and I'm like, what the fuck's going on? And I watch it, I'm like, oh no. And I had to go to bed with that on my mind.
That's a rough deal of it. You had to sleep with that. Your dreams were probably about you being really disappointed by this.
I mean, like, if this had come out, 7 or 8 years ago, then this would have been The Last Airbender instead of The Last Airbender. Because, cartoon that was very much, part of my formative years in middle and high school, and then done completely wrong because the creators decided, no, it needs to be serious and dark, and there should be no humor to it.
Yeah, it definitely seemed to fulfill that notion of, like, guys, I know we've been a little bit silly with some of our shows in the past. I'm like, yeah, and those are the ones that have been very successful. So they're like, let's push it in the opposite direction.
In fact, let's not just go in the opposite direction. Let's take a show that was silly and had, kid appeal, and then just disembowel it. Oh my God. I thought that, if we were going to talk about like a new adaptation on this show, I was originally thinking that maybe we would just make some jokes about how about She-Ra, looking slightly less like a supermodel,
So let me talk. I'm gonna be real here, ladies and gentlemen. I have not reached the point of cynicism where I believe She-Ra's design was intentionally done the way it was to create this internet intentionally done in a way that they think would annoy man babies online to get attention. But sure as fuck, that's the goddamn result of this. Because I've heard so much about fucking She-Ra, and I could not give less of a shit about She-Ra. I always thought everyone was like, oh, She-Ra's garbage. Like, the whole He-Man universe is just garbage. It was for the toys. The show was never really that great. And everyone keeps talking about this She-Ra thing. I don't give a fuck. I condemn certainly the dudes who are just like, I don't like the way she looks. It's like, why do you give a fuck? But I'm just like, I am hearing way too much about this She-Ra show for a show of which I could not give less of a fuck about existing.
Holly made a note that where she said, like, I don't like the design, and it's kind of awful that, now you can't hate the design without being, a misogynist or, think this or that, think people just think it's just because you don't think it's sexy now. It's like, well, yeah, because the entire reason I heard about that cartoon was because of the backlash in response to it. And now you can't even have a freaking discussion about it. So, hey.
It's one of those things where I'm like, hey, they're revitalizing it. Sure. They revitalize almost everything nowadays in at least some fashion. So, fine. Go give She-Ra a shot. Maybe it works in today's culture. They redesigned her. I could not care less about, like, the notion of, like, a new She could have enormous, like, rocket launcher tits. I probably would have still exactly zero opinion on this. So I'm just like, I just don't care, guys. You need to put some property in here I can give a fuck about for me to have to, like, a thought to weigh in on now.
Clearly what we need to do.
If that was the redesign for, like, a new, younger, sexier Golden Girls, I'd be infuriated. It'd be nonstop tweets every 5 minutes. I'd be like, this is an outrage. But She-Ra, no one gives a fuck about She-Ra.
Clearly what we need to do is we need to go in the opposite direction, take a franchise that was very innocent and kid-friendly, and then sexy it up. So we're going to take, Barney the dinosaur and just make him into a hot woman that is just purple,
Like, hold on, what's the name of, like, the old, it's like the Saturday morning comic. It was like the little girl with really curly hair and, like, a red bow. Hold on.
You lost me.
Comic strip.
Really curly
girl, hair and a red bow. Is it Madeline?
She didn't have curly hair.
Nancy, that's it. Yeah, like Nancy. She's the girl. She always wore, like, the little dress that had, like, the little red bow and had very curly hair. We're gonna take Nancy. We're gonna age her up, and she's a sex kitten now.
I've never heard of this before.
I guarantee you. Hold on. Let me open.
Newspaper comic Nancy?
Yeah.
Yeah, let me look at this real quick.
I don't know how to, like, send it to you at this point, so I'm just gonna throw it into. I'm gonna just throw it into the chat.
I have literally never heard of her, so.
Well, that's why she's the great target, Nick. She's very sweet and innocent. We never really heard of her. Boom, we're gonna bump her up a notch. Give her some triple D's, yeah.
Get some TNA in that, Nancy. Yeah.
Yeah. Nasty Nancy is what they'll call her now.
Nasty Nancy.
Yeah.
No. Naughty Nancy.
Ooh. That's a bit more playful.
And she'll, like, just be constantly, like, she'll just, like, be naked, but there'll just be things in front of the private bits. Just things like floating by. Like the steam in manga, Chris, which we're going to have to talk about later.
Yes.
Anyway, that's as good a transition as any. Let's talk about manga. Okay, so we didn't have any My Hero Academia last week as we begin our recap portion of the manga recap. So we pick up where we left off a couple of weeks ago with Endeavor seemingly making his last stand against the new form of Nomu with hawk's feathers forming wings on his back that were also on fire, because why not? And that's how we kick off My Hero Academia chapter number 190, His Start. And he punches the Nomu in the mouth, literally. Like, his fist, like, goes through its teeth. And as he's kind of barreling through it, it's, like, chewing on his arm, which is all nasty. And Endeavor's like, Jesus, I'm blasting fire into his mouth, but his regeneration is still keeping up. I still need to put more into this. So he calls out to Hawks, and Hawks kind of just understands what he needs to do, I guess, as he manipulates his feathers on Endeavor's back to push them up higher into the air. Even though Hawks is at the point where he's basically reached his limit. He's used up basically all of his feathers, and they're burning up from Endeavor's flames. So he's almost out of the ability to do anything. So as they get thrown up into the sky, everyone is watching, of course, both in person and on TV. And Todoroki, back in the dorms at UA, shouts out to his father, "I'm watching you!" Because he is.
Maybe do you think he heard him?
Yeah, maybe he's just, like, declaring his actions. Maybe that's, like, Todoroki's new thing. He's always, the stern, quiet one. Now maybe, occasionally he'll just, like, declare things that are going on. I'm eating breakfast!
He's like, I'm sleeping! 4 hours later.
I will whistle Bob! No, I can't sleep! So they're launched up into the air. And Endeavor basically unleashes all of his power. He says to himself, "You're me, my past, or a future that might have been. Now burn and fade away." Because he has realized at this point that the Nomu is obsessed with being the strongest, defeating strong opponents. So he recognizes that aspect of his personality within it, and he's trying to literally burn it away and eliminate it. He does so by fucking incinerating the thing, declaring that he's always hated that stupid school motto, but calling this technique plus ultra prominence burn. I mean, you don't have to say plus ultra just to, maybe that's like the secret code word in this universe. If you say plus ultra, it's gonna be super awesome.
Yeah, it's like it's morphin time or henshin a go-go or whatever they say in those other shows. Like, it's just what you need to do to use your ultra attack.
Right. So he burns it up. Hawks' feathers have been burned up at this point, so the Nomu and Endeavor fall to the ground or plummet. And some of the heroes that have appeared on the ground for support realize, oh shit, we gotta catch him. So everyone rushes over. There's a big crash on the ground. Everyone's like, oh god. But when the smoke clears, Endeavor is standing with one fist raised in triumph. And everyone's like, oh my god, he's doing All Might's pose in victory to signal his start. And we cut back to the dorms, and Todoroki is just, I think that he's basically just like, oh, thank god. There is a cool little moment before we get into the big thing that happens at the end of the chapter where Hawks brushes over and he kind of leans Endeavor a shoulder to lean on. He's like, hey, you're doing All Might's pose. And Endeavor's like, no, he uses his left arm. I raised my right.
Very original. Do not steal.
Which I do really like that detail. It's a fun joke, but it's like, no, I'm different. Shut up. Endeavor kind of scolds himself because, like, oh, this was actually a really bad start for me, even though we won. But Hawk says, hey, this victory of yours was really huge. So let's, go treat your wounds. But while they're off separated from everyone else, all of a sudden, Dabi emerges, Dabi of the League of Villains. And he says, this isn't how I planned it, but that's fine. Endeavor. Should I say, nice to meet you? He also looks really awesome in this picture, I should say. Very threatening.
He's very creepy. What do you think Dabi's here for? He says plans didn't go quite the way he was thinking, but he's introducing himself.
Well, I get the feeling that they probably have something in mind for Endeavor and or Hawks, probably primarily Endeavor. Maybe they're just planning on taking him out to be like, hey, we're still here. Because that would be a pretty good way of, declaring themselves. All for One took out All Might, but he also had to basically sacrifice himself to do it. So the League of Villains would make a very strong statement by taking out the new number one hero if they could manage to do so.
Part of me wonders if it's supposed to be something different than that. Like, it's worth noting that Endeavor and Hawks are both essentially out of combat right now. Like, Endeavor's exhausted himself, Hawks has no feathers left, so presumably neither of them are at huge strength. And the only person here is Dabi, who's been kind of operating independently for a while. Like, we still believe he's part of the league. But
he definitely is, because he showed up when they took out Overhaul.
Yeah, but there is like an odd thing where I wonder if this is maybe something more personal. I don't know. Part of me wonders if it's going to be something less extreme than that, based solely on the fact that it's only Dabi here. You'd like to think that if this was like the League of Villains making a statement, then the entire league would have just shown up right now or something like that.
Well, it's possible, I suppose. They could very well just be right off panel, right behind him, still masked in the smoke. And I also think that there's probably more than just him involved in this in general, because, the Nomu are there. And I don't think that he had the ability to just create and manipulate a Nomu by himself. There has been a fan theory going around that Dobby might be one of Endeavor's failures, one of his children that he cast aside because of his firepower now, or his fire quirk. I have never really, taken that necessarily seriously because I think that there could be people with similar quirks who aren't necessarily related. But I get the impression that since this is the first nearly one-on-one confrontation between Endeavor and Dobby, that we might get some confirmation or disapproval of that theory at this point. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I can dig it. I like this chapter. I like Endeavor having this kind of cool moment. The raising the arm in victory, signaling it. I like the dichotomy too of like everyone being like, "That's crazy! What an awesome hero! What an arrival!" and him just like, "Oh man, I really fucked that up."
Being the realist about it. Yeah,
I really boned that one up hardcore.
So I guess we'll see what happens next week. All right. From there, then, we are going to move on to Food Wars. Rokugeki no Soma.
Man, let's just skip over it. Nothing happened in Food Wars.
Nothing happened. Nothing important. Food Wars 271. The son of the greatest. So, last time... thank you, phone. Last time...
Does your phone's ring alert sound like a cool mystery, like a clue just found out, like a cool mystery story? Like,
it's like a Phoenix Wright effect.
Yeah, like you just like... Wait a minute, is that a bullet? Boom!
Phoenix just discovers that the villain is actually Saiba's son. Oh, spoilers, shit. So, last time Soma and Megumi had heard from King Guy that the person who had sent out the Cuisiniers Noir to Japan to cause mayhem was calling himself Saiba, as in Saiba Joichiro, Soma's father. So, we begin with basically the Council of 10 gathering together to discuss their findings together with Erina. Notably, Hayama and Kurikiba and Alice all are not there, presumably because they're all still fighting each other. So, which means that of the 9 people gathered, 1 is Erina, 7 are members of the Council of 10, and 1 is just the younger Aldini brother.
When I first saw this panel, I had to stop for a moment. I was like, the shitty fucking younger Aldini brother didn't make the Council of 10, did he?
No, he did not.
Yeah.
No, it's the other 7 there, and then it's Alice, Ayama, and Kurikiba. Which I guess it makes sense that they're not there because they weren't sent out on missions by Erina, so they don't really have findings to discuss.
I assume they're just back at the school. Did you see the movie Tag at all?
I really wanted to, but I didn't get around to it.
So, you see in the trailer, there's a scene where they're all trying to tag each other really quick and it passes up. I imagine that's what the 3 of them are doing in school. They're just cooking things attached to each other. I got to your seat. And meanwhile, there's
take each other's seats. Yeah.
And meanwhile, there's a dorm that's on fire. Just don't worry, we left the school in capable hands.
I do really want to see that movie. Was it good?
It's funny. It's unfortunately most of the best jokes are in the trailer. There still are good jokes in there, but the trailer is amazing and the movie isn't as amazing as that. If you want a really good one to watch though, Game Night. 100% Game Night was fucking hysterical.
I was intrigued by that one. And that'll probably be out on DVD and stuff now.
I think it's already out, yeah. That one's great. I can also give you a very quick review of the Mr. Rogers documentary if you'd like.
Sure, why not? Might as well crank out all of our movie talk in one go.
Yeah, very good. Sorry, Food Wars. Very good. Very sad. Humanized him in a very interesting way. Because one of his sons is in one of the first people. And he's like, yeah, it was really tough. It was like having the second coming of Christ as a dad. And I was like, that was where I was kind of worried. But then they go to show oh man, he was just riddled with self-doubt and worry about his own mistakes. They have a touching moment. They show the song that Daniel the Tiger sang about being a mistake. And lady, what's her name? Anna, whatever, was singing with him. And she's like, no, you're not a mistake. And they're like, yeah, you'd expect that song to be Daniel the Tiger being oh, I'm not a mistake. Great. Instead, he came back in and it's a duet of him being I'm a mistake and her trying to be no, you're not. But the moment that hit the hardest is the very end of it. they start doing, there's like, Fred had this technique where he's like, think of the people whose smile makes you smile, whose laugh makes you laugh, and whose love makes you love. And for the next minute, just think about that. And as they're doing that, they're cutting to everybody who they've had in the movie, and occasionally like interjecting with somebody being like, "Oh, who were you thinking of?" Like, "Oh, my mother," or like, "Oh, my best friend," or something like that. And while I was in the theater and this scene's happening, it's already like a touching scene because you've gone through the whole movie, and this like is a very poignant kind of moment, like to Fred's philosophy. This old couple's in front of me, and I could see the husband like reach over and grab his wife's hand. And I was like, "You cocksuckers! You fucking cocksuckers! You can't do this to me! I'm in the movie too! Fuck you!"
Oh, I'm experiencing that secondhand, and I'm tearing up. That's beautiful.
Oh, it's like, God damn it! Yeah, very good movie.
I'm not gonna be able to finish this podcast.
It's fine. They probably didn't die on the way home. I mean, I don't know. I didn't follow them home, but...
Oh, man. Oh, God. Okay, so... let's talk about a more troubled family now in this series. So... this chapter kind of runs through all of the, like, all the internet discussion about the chapter, in one go. Erina is immediately like, "Saiba wouldn't do that. What? No. Isn't that right, Yukihira?" And someone's just like, "Well, I mean, it is my dad. Maybe he got drunk that night and just, accidentally revealed all that stuff about Shokugekis." And Takumi's like, "You should have more faith in your father."
Come on now.
And he points out, well, someone else could have just been using the name Saiba to work their mischief. And Erina's like, "Yes, that has to be it." So then all of a sudden, Kurikiba is like, "Who is this Saiba guy anyway?" Because none of them know anything about Joichiro. So Ishiki gives a little recap for the three former and now current council members who don't know anything about him. And there's this weird little exchange between Kinokuni and Soma, because Kinokuni's like, so that is where one of the secrets of your strength lies. And Soma's like, the one of my what now? Shut up. Nothing. I said nothing. Is she Sun for him? Is that what's going on, Chris?
I don't think so.
I thought she was Sun for Ishiki.
Yeah, she can't be Sun for two people. That'd be
yes, you can. You can have crushes on two people.
No, it's impossible, Nick.
Possible.
It's a scientific fact. Boy, girl. That's how it goes.
If you're going to have crushes on multiple people, you have to be a guy who has 5 girls minimum having a crush on him, and then he can't choose between them. Girls can't have multiple crushes on guys.
That's the only way it's fair. Like life, I mean, is fair as long as boys can have multiple. Yeah, the
guy's gonna have their pick of the litter. That's the only, because it's been so hard on dudes,
Guys have had it pretty hard forever when you think about it. They always had to lift the heavy things, and
it's only fair if
fix
20
all the cars. I presumably do.
It's only fair if 20 hot women want to jump on me. You know what? So, someone just decides to take the most direct route about figuring this out, and just calls his dad on his cell phone. He says, he hardly ever answers this thing, but I might as well try. And then he immediately answers the phone. And he's like, "Oh, hey, Dad. Yeah, I got to ask you something." And he just basically rambles everything out, and he wasn't expecting his dad to answer, so it comes out in a kind of a garble. And he's like, "So do you know anything about the noir and all this, going around calling himself Saiba?" And he's like, "Yeah, actually, I do know him. He's my other son." And so it's like, "What?"
Say what now?
Brother? And so it's like, so Joichiro just says, "Oops, gotta go, bye." So it turns out Joichiro is in the middle of going to start a Shokugeki with the guy calling himself Saiba, who is apparently his second son. And a brief panel of skipping happens, and when we come back, Saiba's lost to Shokugeki 5-0.
No, Nick. Saiba defeated Joe.
Joichiro Saiba has lost to Asahi Saiba 5-0.
I'm confused. Why is it Joe?
Presumably they're in America, so Joichiro.
And they were just like, let's just call him Joey then.
Yeah.
But they were like, Saiba makes sense.
So, yeah. Well, I mean, what are you gonna call him? Like,
call him Santa.
So
it's very similar letters.
Saiba stands over his father apparently, and says, "I'm Asahi Saiba, which is a good name, right? Heh." Heh. He's very amused by himself. And then he says that he's going to Japan now. There's someone I have to meet. And he's like tucking his bandana down. And that's where the chapter ends, basically, because it cuts over to Soma, and everyone is like gathered on his cell phone looking worried. So apparently, Joichiro had a second son, a secret second son that nobody knew about, and he's the most awesome chef in the galaxy, and he beat Saiba, Joichiro. This is so difficult, very easily.
So, I'll be honest, I don't mind this. It's a twist, but like that kind of comes out of left field. But that's honestly what kind of has to happen with a lot of these series for a while. Like, you're like, oh, we need another arc? All right, well, what would be interesting? And they're like, well, we'll just add the elements to make sense for it all. It doesn't bother me. I will admit, I only wish this chapter ended with Soma on the other line being like, I have a brother? Like nonchalant. Because those are the best Soma scenes. When he's the guy who's just like, he was just on the other end confused instead of actually being concerned about his
when he has a Luffy moment, basically.
Yeah, like it's one of the, like, because he even has it when he first hears like, oh, that's my other son. He's like, huh? Like, I wanted that to be the end of the chapter. He's just like, what? Second son, Dad, are you still there?
This is such a, oh man. If fan fiction has taught me anything, Chris, when there is a secret sibling of the main character introduced out of nowhere, they have to be a self-insert female love interest for the hot guy in the series. So clearly what should have happened is Asuka Saiba should have been introduced, and she's the best chef in the world, but Takumi is watching the Shokugeki between the two of them, and he immediately falls in love with her amazing cooking, and they go off and they make out together. So on fanfiction.net, this would have gotten a I don't buy this review for me.
I see why people could be annoyed by this, but I'm just kind of, I don't know. I'm just sort of excited with the idea of like an evil Soma when the good one isn't even that great. Like, the good one's still pretty big, like a pretty big.
He's
asshole.
just like, he's just serious about everything. He never loses focus. He's all business about everything.
Well, he kind of has the same like manner of speaking and everything when he's just like, oh yeah, there's someone I have to meet. Like, he has that kind of weird sort of angst like accent that Soma has. So presumably, like, the notion's like, oh, it's like just an evil version of Soma, which I'm kind of excited for.
All right.
So this is Eden Zero time?
Yes, it is. Let's move on to Chapter 4 of that series.
Eden Zero, Chapter 4, Norma. So they're on the spaceship, the Aquawing. I forgot that was the name of it. Rebecca's ship, the Aquawing, and she's showing Shiki around, and she's like, here's your room. You can stay in here whenever you get tired. And he's like, why? I don't mind sharing the same room as you. And I'll admit, I'm really hoping this isn't a character trait that stays around, because they did it last time.
You know it is. You know it is,
but it's like...
He's Natsu, Chris.
It's the same thing Natsu had, where it's like, I'm so weirdly raised that I don't understand why there'd be boundaries at all. Yeah, it's like, fuck off, man. Like, you can't keep doing it. It's like, is it that sexy of a thing? I don't know. They mentioned, like, oh yeah, you can run the ship all by itself, but Shiki's like, oh, well, I can pilot. And they're like, oh, wait, that'd be great. We could do a group video where an amateur dude flies a spaceship for the first time.
I actually do admire the dedication to, yes, we'll do it for the Vine of these characters.
And they immediately fucking crashes, apparently. And she's just like, she's angry. She's like, I can't believe it. You crashed a spaceship. And he's like, yeah, did you get a good video? And I guess she's angry, like, you bet I did. But then he lifts the spaceship up using his ether gear power. And we actually get a pretty cool scene because we see Rebecca grab onto this like little heart dice necklace thing. Mm-hmm. And she's like, yeah, I have an alarm set to change when the weather becomes unusual. And we get this 2-page spread where we see like these giant crystalline pillars essentially emerge from the atmosphere. And she explains that they're crystals of earth ether. And this planet has a lot of it, so crystallized in the upper atmosphere. And essentially that's what reigns on this planet. It's just like giant pillars of crystal.
It's a really cool thing. It's a nice way of, establishing how the world works and why the society and the world is set up the way that it is. It feels like a very complete kind of fantasy, very, very One Piece kind of, the geography is so fucked up that everything is built around it.
We've had, like, Kira's always had an ability to create interesting sort of things when he wants to, like interesting, I don't know, worlds, I guess, to a certain extent.
Yeah, we just got so little of it in the end of Fairy Tail. It was just, and they're in a giant field with no features.
But we have a moment where Shiki's like, wait a minute, what's ether? And they're like, you use ether gear and you don't know. And they explain that it's the source of all power. They, it's that fucking like Thor moment where they're just like, in some universes, they would have called us gods. We're actually just very scientifically advanced humans. And then eventually, by the end of it, like the Thor universe movie is like, all right, I guess there's magic too. There's a lot here. But yeah, they're like, yeah, this used to be in some places they'd call this magic, but everyone has it, And the way ether gear works is it kind of like reconstitutes your ether flow into a different configuration, like a machine. Got it. Then they go beneath the planet, because that's where the actual civilization is. So, beneath sort of like the actual crust of the planet, because otherwise they'd be crushed by the giant raining pillars of crystal all the time. And it's all covered with a bunch of different people, and essentially like the fucking porgs from Last Jedi. And they go to find Professor Weiss. And when they get there, Rebecca's just like, I wonder where he is. And Shiki puts on X-ray glasses, and we almost see him look at Rebecca.
I was actually confused about this. So he looks at Happy in curiosity, so he sees Happy's robo body beneath the fur. So he's like, huh. And then he puts them back on, and Rebecca turns over to him and she's like, what are you doing? And so you see that he basically definitely sees her boobs because, the panel line just cuts off her nipples. But I am confused as to, like, was he deliberately trying to check her out, or was he just, like, confused by the specs?
I think it's just stupid fan service for the sake of it. But before anything else can happen, someone comes in.
Clearly what would happen when this guy comes in, Sheikah should have looked over and gotten an eyeful of him.
He's just like, holy shit. You've got a robot cock?
Equal opportunity fan service.
Not in this series. So the person comes in and says, nobody move. And they're like, well, who are you? He's like, that's my line. What are you doing in your house? And Rebecca's like, your house? I thought this is where Professor Weiss lives. He says, Professor? And they're like, yeah, Professor Weiss Steiner. He fixed me. And he says, Weiss Steiner is my name, so who in the cosmos are you people? And we get this reaction series of panels where everyone's like, what? What's going on? Cheeky's just like, aha, you're younger than I thought. And then we cut to 20,000 years later, and there's 2 robot people who are investigating the planet.
They're astronauts, Chris.
Yeah, sure. And like, we found 2 bodies.
They've just found Rita Repulsa's atomic, galactic spanning dumpster.
Well, they find 2 human bodies, 1 man and 1 woman. One's holding a red or white rock. The other one's holding a black rock. We won't find out who they are until the end of season 5. But it is the mystery of the Adam and Eve skeletons that really haunts lost viewers. Anyway, they find bodies and they're like, oh, hey, one of them had this cube thing. I've never seen anything like it. What's on it? Eden's 0, and we see a faraway shot of what looks like a planet breaking apart and dissolving into dust.
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess this series is going to have some time travel shenanigans to it.
I'm not sure. I think that the idea is that, 20,000 years in the future, their corpses were left after, this planet was being destroyed and stuff. But I don't know.
Well, the reason I say that is because we have, I think it's already kind of happened now where they know why Steiner in the future, but somehow they're in a situation where they're seeing a younger version of himself. Because it's not, the thing that kind of takes me off to that is when they're like, this is where Professor Weiss lives. And he's like, Professor? So maybe he hasn't become a professor yet? And that's the situation. I mean, it could just be his fucking son, and I'm maybe reading into it, but it seems weird to also include, like, well, we're jumping 20,000 years into the future to give you some clue about something.
I mean, clearly the point of this ending is to make you think that Shiki and Rebecca and Happy all died on this world somehow, and that's why the Q was left behind and stuff. But it is definitely, there's some weird stuff going on, and I'm not even going to really bother to make predictions until we get another chapter, because this information was just dumped on you to make you think one thing. So,
just out of curiosity, I guess she did speak to the receptionist at the guild, but I was trying to think, I was like, did Irma, or whatever her fucking stupid name is, did she actually interact with, like, the timeline we know, or is this going to be a thing where we find out, like, oh shit, it's two different timelines interacting, we didn't realize it, or something like that?
You're asking about something very complex that I would need to actually go back and read the whole thing over again, and while specifically looking for that to see if there could be anything to support that idea. So I have no idea.
Oh, there we go.
All right. Then moving on from there, we're going to close out on the Jumpstart. The set of Jumpstarts that we had this time around. We're going to first cover a little bit of Alice and Taiyo. They play the gig that they had because they were replacing the one douchebag who wanted to get into Alice's pants. And they do really well. And Taiyo realizes he really likes playing because it's actually a lot of fun. Despite his stage fright and everything, he basically realizes that he's not on his own here because Alice is out there performing with him, and so he manages to actually have a good time. And you can tell that Alice is singing really well because there's a lot of poses of her going, but you don't know the words she's singing, so yay, musical manga series. So afterwards, the MC of the whole thing actually comes out to talk to them, and he's like, wow, what a good job, guys. You guys showed confidence. What's next? You gonna go pro? Just kidding. And I was just like, go pro? No way, Jin. Our sights are set on the Grammys. And they're like, what? The Grammys? And they're like, yes, the Grammys in the United States is the most prominent music award in the world. The Academy Awards are known for the movies. The Grammys music, it said the Japan.
I didn't read this part.
The Japan Record Awards were modeled after the Grammys. Previous winners have included Michael Jackson, U2, Beyonce, and Lady Gaga, to mention just a few, all of whom are known all over the world. Oh. Yeah, because every Grammy winner is super famous, isn't it, Chris?
I don't think I've ever experienced, like, because there's One Piece's characters, like a rubber pirate and all sorts of nonsense. But I don't think I've ever heard a thing in manga that suspended my disbelief enough than someone being like, the Grammys are the pinnacle of music achievement in America. Everyone cares about the Grammys. Nick, who won Best Album last year?
What's an album?
Fuck, that's great. Their Christmas bowl is a Grammy, and no one gives a fuck.
They're like, we won a Grammy. Who are you?
Just like, so?
And we get this big thing. It's like, in the 60-year history of the Grammys, in the 4 main categories, a Japanese artist has never won. I mean, that is true, I guess. And Taiyo's like, winning a Grammy? That'd be like Japan winning the FIFA World Cup. No, even more unlikely.
They were in like the final 16 teams, weren't they?
They were in the tournament, yeah. I also don't think they're going to win anytime soon, but I don't know. I don't think that any Japanese artist has ever come close to winning the Grammys, come to think of it. But, yeah, and Alice is just like, we can do it. So, they leave the concert. What's on your mind, Chris?
Hold on, I'm going to look it up.
Okay. They leave the concert, and Taiyo basically says, like, I'm actually kind of disappointed in myself. Our rhythm was all over the place, and I made actually a lot of errors. Performing live is really difficult, so next time I'm going to do better. And Alice is like, okay, well, how about playing music with me then? And Taiyo says, I won't regret it, right? And Alice says, who do you think I am? You won't. I won't let you. We get this 2-page spread of the two of them just shaking hands, which is a nice little thing, I think. I like seeing, this, different sexes pairing, being very professional, honestly,
platonic.
About their, professional and platonic in their interaction. Yeah. So they have a little bit more, banter, and Taiyo thinks to himself, 3 times. On the 3rd time, she reached out her hand. He actually took it this time. It's like, oh, that's cool. She was persistent, but he actually did accept it and was enthusiastic about doing so. And Alice is like, all right, let's go do this. We're going to take over the world. We're going to start off easy with the Budokan Arena, which is a very big step up. But honestly, so is this, which is that Alice gets a direct message saying, like, hi, pleased to make your acquaintance. My name is Kageyama, and I'm a TV director. I'm contacting you to inquire as to whether you'd be interested in a performance on TV. Okay.
This is a relatively fitting end to the Jumpstart, though, because this kind of functions almost as a final chapter to the series, with the optimism of their teaming has completed. They're looking forward to the future together. If they were yeah, this is last chapter, I'd be like, yeah, this makes sense. I feel like this closes it on enough of a note that there's some level of closure to it. And then there's just one panel to be like, no, there's a 4th chapter.
And they're going to be on TV. That's a step up all of a sudden.
Well, Mick, they have to get to the Grammys, they gotta. There's so much effort that comes with getting to the Grammys.
Right, we got once we're 20 chapters in the series, and they're performing in sold out arenas. All right. Okay. So then from there, we're going to talk about Tight Kubos, new series that is definitely going to be a series. Let's face it, this is probably not just going to be a one-shot, but it's a one-shot for now. Burn the Witch! What a series. What a title.
I skimmed through this the first time and didn't pay much attention. And then today I was like, oh wait, I haven't actually fully read it yet. And I fully read it and I was like, I'm going to spoil people. This is some garbage. I was like, holy shit, this is the actual motivation behind these characters right now?
There's some good bits here and there, but it's not very good overall, I don't think. Also, I wanted to take a moment to talk a little bit about this cover page for this one shot. First of all, the way that these mantles are sitting on these girls' shoulders, the plaid pattern shouldn't look like that. It's literally just he drew the, form that the mantle is taking, and then he just applied a plaid pattern over it instead of having the plaid actually conform to whatever contours would naturally form by the ripples and such in the material. So it looks like they're wearing armor instead. Secondly, Chris, please tell me I'm not the only one who thought that the main girl was extending one gun out and then extending another arm behind her back with a second gun. Because that girl below her, it's coming out right at her hip. And every time I look at this picture, it makes it look like she's got a second gun going behind her back.
I can't even look at it because I'm so distracted at how fucking stupid those guns are that they look like children's toys, and I think that's the point. But they don't look like guns at all. Like, they're essentially just an object that they put a trigger on, and they're like, it's a gun. I was like, shit, the noisy cricket from Men in Black was the more threatening pistol in this, beyond the fact that it actually was crazy powerful. But, like, the notion of, like, I'm going to give them cool weapons. What did I do in the last series? Swords. I'm going to do guns this time. But I'm going to make
guns that are also magic wands, apparently. Yeah.
It's like, fuck off. All right, go ahead.
So, we're introduced to our main character, this very kind of serious, dark-haired girl named Noelle. And she's like thinking to herself about how awesome uniforms are, because when she wears a uniform, she doesn't have to prove who she is to anyone. It's like, that's right, you can form, girl. And then our male lead jumps down, and for the first of about 300 billion times in this one chapter, he tries to look at Noelle's knickers. It's specifically knickers.
Yeah, well, because they're in London.
Right.
So that would be the equivalent of I want to see your underwear. I believe that knickers is underwear, isn't it?
Knickers, yeah. It's under things.
I only know that because of the Mummy 2. When they're having sex in the one room, or they're about to, and then like the female lead's like, that was all my knickers, because they find a bra, and then they find like the goofy brother is having sex with somebody else, and then the mummy attacks. It's a craziness.
I don't even remember that scene, but I believe you. So she beats him up for trying to look at her knickers. Then she walks into. Go ahead.
It's worth noting he first distracts her with a very adorable dog.
With a little puppy that's definitely not going to show up in the rest of the chapter.
Oshushi. I love that good dog.
Osushi. So, but she's not distracted. She beats him up very brutally, and then walks away and walks into this, old style phone booth, and then, like, fucking get smart. She puts a coin in and declares a name, and goes down through it to her secret base, which is this entire like underground world with the damage sign out front. A lot of stuff happens. I'm not going to go through everything. It'll take too long. There are hollows in this series, but they're called dragons. I'm calling them hollows because they are monstrous things that can take any shape. So I'm just going to.
I like it because they're at least functionally different than hollows, in that they kind of manifest out of whatever is embodied with the negative energy. So like, if a bunch of farmland is embodied with negative energy, it's a monster like farmland thing crops up, and if you kill it, it could be food apparently and stuff like that.
While this is going on, we're also introduced to male lead Bargo's friend. I forget what his name is, but he's got a friend. And also Osushi is their friend, and Osushi's cute and adorable and stuff. We introduced the concept of how dragons work, which is, some of them are just monsters, but some of them are also just used as livestock, and they can be used as resource and everything. Meanwhile, back up on the surface, Bargo is trying to get into the phone booth because, how the hell did Noelle get down there anyway? All right, yeah. Also, there's more discussion of knickers. And then all of a sudden, while Osushi is sitting on Bargo's head, suddenly it explodes into a giant dragon. Yep.
So they note that like a dragon is this creature that kind of is born from this sort of rampaging like entity. Like it's like sort of it emphasis needs to be put in like in the hollow terms, like kind of almost like negative energy needs to be there. Like there needs to be something that kind of creates these dragons. And they killed his fucking adorable dog. These monsters. It just explodes his fucking dog, and he just carries his corpse around for most of the chapter. And the reason that this dog is a fucking dragon is because Bargo really wants to see her fucking knickers.
Yes.
And it's so fucking stupid. Like, I honestly, I don't know if I could come up with a more absurdly, like, lame reason for this sort of thing. Like, a worse way to introduce your main character.
There is a giant black dragon rampaging around, going to kill you, and it's going, Knickers! Because that was the evil it was born from.
It's fucking stupid. Fuck.
So Noelle has shown up in order to fight it, and she's, of course, really pissed off because she realizes that this is Bargo's fault. And she's like, I will kill him! And then, frickin' Bargo looks up and is like, Noelle's flying up at the sky! And she looks really pissed off! But even her angry face is cute! It's like, oh no, Khan finally got a human body permanently. God damn it.
Sorry. I knew it reminded me of something. So, like, their fucking coordinator dude or whatever calls him, and his name's Billy Banks Jr. And I was like, why does that remind me? And I looked it up. That's because there's Billy Blanks Jr., who does all of, like, the boot camp cardio videos. That has to be the reference, right? Like, why else would it be so close to this?
So, Noelle recognizes that it recognizes Osushi's body in Bargo's hands, and is like, yeah, it's a puppy that Bargo found 2 months ago. Bargo loved the little guy. And the other girl that's with her is like, it's a disguiser. It's a dragon that inhabits a corpse. We don't see them much. Plenty were roaming about until the 18th century when the city started getting cleaned up. Meanwhile, Bargo's like, hot girl! Also a dragon. Hot girl! His friend is like, oh my god, look, Osushi's dead. Look, the monster ate its way out of his body. It's dead. Come on, let's run. And Bargo's like, why? It's because there's a monster. So the guy starts running, and he starts running away from Bargo, and blonde girl is like, that guy's running. We can't actually let him run away because he's been in contact with the dragon. And Noelle looks down at her radar thing and is like, oh my gosh, there's actually 2 signals. There are 2 readings. And the guy's head explodes off and another dragon comes out of it. And what happens, Chris?
It looks like someone gets their arm cut off.
Yeah.
Almost. I don't think it actually gets cut off, because I think we see...
Her arm is maimed.
Yeah.
And what is her reaction to this, Chris?
Oh, none. She says, crap. So, they have a 4th division in this one as well.
If someone had shown you this... You know what? Not even shown you this, because it's very distinct. It's very obviously Kubo's art style, there's a lot of, strong contrast between black and white. A lot of the clothing and faces and stuff look like his. So that would have given it away very obviously. But if someone read you a synopsis of this chapter, you would know that this was Kubo's work.
Emperor Dian brings up a good point. This series needs to be more British. So when she loses her arm, she needs to be like,
what?
She's like, oh, piss off. Oh, you gotten me gobsmacked, you have now. Fuck, I want the series in the magazine next so we can just do shitty British accents over top of it.
So
he wants to see my knickers. He does what? So
Bargo's friend, whose name is Selby, fully transforms into another dragon, and Bargo's like, Selby? And the dragon's like, do I still look like Selby to you? And Bargo's like, I don't see anything, actually. I can only hear your voice right now. And Dragon Selby's like, get out of here, Bargo. I don't need to kill you. I just want to eat those witches and become immortal. And the blonde-haired witch is like, sorry, but that's just an old wives' tale. Okay.
Well, I guess that's the thing. Like, whenever they see creatures, they're going to try to eat them because that's, that's what they're all about.
Yeah. So it tries to eat her. And there's a little bit of fighting that happens. And by the way, blonde girl is just like talking casually about stuff while being carried through the air with her maimed fucking arm. And so Noelle just, talking about stuff like, that was Selby, Bargo's lifelong friend. And the blonde's like, did he almost die at some point? Yeah, when they were 7 years old, a train ran over him. Selby pushed Bargo out of the way and took the brunt of it. Ever since then, it must be. And you lot are 17 now. For 10 whole years, this dragon lived in the city in contact with humans. And the dragon knocks them out of the air because they were so caught up in their exposition that they weren't paying attention. They happen to land literally right next to Bargo. And Bargo looks over at Blonde Witch and is like, hey, you're Noelle's friend? So she's like, run away, you idiot. And he's like, no, I can't abandon. And Selby Dragon's like, abandon her. Oh, Sushi was a dragon and that girl is about to be my snack, so give up on her. If it's Nihashi you're worried about, no, Nihashi is Noelle's last name, then wait around just a bit because if eating this one turns me immortal, I've got no problem letting her live. And way to sell the dangerousness of dragons in your story. Plain ass pervert human Bargo. It's just like, no, and gets in the way of its unwinding mouth thing and just blocks it with his bare hands. And he goes, ow.
I've got an important question. Maybe I'm missing it. Is this supposed to be a comedy and I'm not getting it? Because it's got
there's
points to it that I'm like,
parody elements to it.
Like there's
and
points to it that I'm like, oh, this has to be like the joke, but then it plays itself so seriously in like the action scenes that I can't tell.
Exactly. Like there are definitely parts, especially in like the resolution of this combat, where you could definitely sell me on this was meant to be, a comedy. It's just a parody of action series like this. But the drama of like, oh, his best friend was killed and now his stuff. It's hard. It's hard to gauge it. And I think that we're going to need more than just the one shot in order to tell about that. I guess we'll find out eventually because, you know for certain that Kubo's going to come back with an actual series, I'm sure, at some point. So Bargo refuses to back down despite Selby Dragon mocking him. And he's like, I can't believe you can't even abandon a girl you've just met. Is it love at first sight? And Bargo says, no. The one I can't abandon is you, Selby. And he's like, I'm not Selby. Selby died at age 7 saving you, and that was when I donned his corpse and went on living his life. And Bargo makes a very, actual strong point, which is, well, then if it's been you in there since we were 7, then that means it's been 10 years we've been hanging out being friends, which is longer than the real Selby was ever actually alive. That's a good point.
It's like a strong point. He's like, yes, I've been biding my time, pretending to be your friend for 10 years to maybe eat a witch and gain immortality based off of the urban legend we tell.
It's not like I liked you or anything.
I'm like, bro, we had sleepovers, like a bunch of them. He was just like, I did enjoy our chats over Fuller House and other series, but did you realize it was all part of my plan to maybe eat a witch one day? Also, your dog was evil.
So Bargo's like, before the accident, and ever since too, you've always been so kind, and I never stopped seeing you as my best pal. So when you start talking about eating people, I can't just stay quiet and walk away. And Subby Dragon's like, I'll kill you. So Noelle comes in and kicks him in the face and is like, Bargo, that was actually pretty impressive. Your feelings, Bargo, I hear them loud and clear. And then she takes out her gun and obliterates the dragon. And it just leaves like a freaking spleen or something that falls down next to him. And Bargo's like, the way that this scene was playing out, I thought he wouldn't have to die. And Nini says, what gave you that impression? Anyway, we're done here. And that's...
That's it, man. It ends.
I will admit that made me laugh a lot. But I was just like... I'm not sure if it's like undercutting itself or if it really was deliberately just meant to be a comedy from the beginning. It's kind of hard to tell. The way that the whole thing resolves itself is that Bargo is actually assigned to be like in their care because he was in contact with the dragon so long that he is now considered dragon possessed. So they have to keep an eye on him, but they're not going to exterminate him. Which he objects to is like, oh, the penalty for interacting with the dragon is death. And Billy, what's his name?
Billy Banks Jr., not Blanks, but yeah.
He says, biologically speaking, those possessed by dragons are more dragon than human, so we gotta treat them that way. Which means it's your job to conserve Bargo, because he's not necessarily a danger, as some of the dragons are. He could be raised like cattle, like some of them are. So they have to keep an eye on him to make sure he's okay. And then Osushi reappears.
It's Doggo.
I thought that it was dead.
Well, they didn't kill that dragon, did they?
I guess that's it. They determined that it wasn't actually dangerous because it's just obsessed with Knickers.
Yeah.
And sure enough, after it appears on Bargo's head, it turns over to Noelle and it's like, show me your Knickers, Noelle. And the chapter ends with Noelle literally chasing Bargo through the wall after him. And she's like, I must silence Osushi forever, while he's running away from her and Osushi's riding around on his head. And then we get the title of the one shot again as they're chasing, and it just burn the witch. Sorry, burn cross he witch.
This is some fucking garbage. I don't know. If it was actually less into the serious parts of itself, I might be able to be like, oh, it's like a goofy comedy series and it's just silly, it's stupid, like parody, like goofiness. Like, it's weird to me because they make this thing where they're like, oh, he has this cute dog that he loves, and there's a sad story where like that he found the dog 2 years ago. And for the people in the chat who keep fucking messaging me, yes, I realize the dog died in the story, that it's not actually a living dog when he's there holding it in the story. It's already been possessed by the dragon. I grasped that part. But that he has this dog that he's been holding on to, and then like the dog has been pulling on to this guy's negative feelings, and that's the monster. And you're like, oh wow. But then you're like, oh wait, no, the dog just wants to see her underwear. And then, by the way, your friend's evil too. It's like, what? What was that? Was like a weird like juxtaposition, like pulled the rug out from under you. I got you. Like, this is a one shot, bro. I had no expectations going into this. It's just a very strange series. It's not particularly funny. Like, there's moments that are kind of amusing, but I laughed at it more than I was laughing with it, which isn't a great sign.
Yeah.
Also, there did 100% need to be more British slang used in this than just fucking underwear. They needed to just be like, that dragon's built like a brick shithouse he is! God save the queen, Pip Pip!
We'll see how that goes. Chris, it's time to never learn.
Never ever?
Never learn.
But Nick, we never learn. We never learn chapter 71.
However, a predecessor is swayed by a certain X.
Yeah, however, a predecessor, that thing. I had to get to the chapter title. So we open in media res.
Exactly.
And Uega has just shaved his head and is walking away from a burning building. We're like, what the hell happens in this episode? Now, actually, he's hugging Asumi, who's in her maid outfit. And he's saying, like, senpai, and she's tightly hugging him. And we cut to 2 hours earlier. And Ashumi's doing her maid service, as I explained before, and Eureka's coming along to help because he just does it. And woman's like, I need you to watch my pets. And while I head out for a couple hours, like, that seems pretty easy. And then they look and they're like, what? It's not just a cat, it's a bunch of reptiles. And Eureka sexistly is like, I'm going to have to help because she's a dainty girl and she's going to be afraid of all these scary reptiles. And instead she's just like, lunchtime, yeah, who's a good snake? Who's a good snake?
It's actually really adorable because all of the reptiles are just like crawling all over her all affectionately and stuff. It's like, aw. I'm sure that many people would be freaked out in that situation, but I think it would actually be really cool to hold a snake that was friendly.
And she even teases him again because he acts concerned. She's like, oh, you a jealous boy. Don't worry, I've got pets for you too. He's like, that's not
thinks of him literally as a cold-blooded, scaly reptile that she has to pick up and feed bugs to.
So she's like, why don't you go see the animals in the next room? And he's like feeding the aquarium creatures. And then she assumes he joins in one of the rooms, and he goes like, hey, look, isn't this cute? It's Hammy the hamster. And it's this fucking fat little hamster nubbling on this, like a sesame seed or whatever. And immediately she like backs up against the wall. She's like, and he's like, what's wrong? Nothing. And he tries to like push the hamster closer for some reason. He's like, you must not have seen how adorable this hamster is. And it leaps forward.
You idiots.
It leaps forward into her breast. Look, wedgie vacuums are out. The new thing in this universe is black holes in between women's breasts, because this is 2 chapters in a row now where things have flung into women's clothes in between their cleavage.
In fairness, at least this time, there was an actual opening that the object in question could conceivably cram itself into and then tug down. Last time, Ogata's shirt was buttoned up to the neck.
Well, this time she still has it up. It's still up to her chest. It just lowers when the creature starts nuzzling in it. So it had to pull her shirt down to get to her bosom.
Right. It was going into the dark, warm place.
Sure. And she has a scene where she's like, oh, God, help me get it out. It's biting me. He's like, where did it bite you? She's like, why would you ask that? You know where it's biting, you fucking dickhead. And then we get to the scene we see in media res. I don't know why this chapter started in media res. This was not like a crazy revelation. It just was like, oh, he was holding a hamster. Thanks. And he realizes like, oh, wow, she has some kind of thing. But then the hamster escapes. Like, oh, no. So they go out looking for it, and he's just like, hey, do you have a fear of rodents? And she's like, I'm not afraid of them. I'm just uncomfortable with them. Because one time when I was really young, we did a house call on some guy. He had no family. And the guy was like, I'm worried about my pet mice. Can you go check on them for me? And they're like, sure, Grandpa. And she opened the door, and it was a room filled with mice that I guess had apparently just been procreating over and over again while this guy couldn't like take care of them. And it was just a room full of rats, which I'm not going to lie, that is a terrifying sight. If you've ever seen those videos of like a room covered in rats or whatever, it is a unnerving sight.
Like the floor moving. Yeah.
So she's like, yeah, it's that's kind of unnerving for me. And then they see Hammy, and he's like up on a tree connected to like a bridge, hanging onto it. And they're like, he's like, how are we going to rescue it? And Sumi says, the only choice is to give up. And we see a bird swooping down to eat Hammy. But don't worry.
Eat it!
Sumi saves him, snatches him. And we found out that one panel earlier where she said, one page earlier where she said to just give up, she actually meant she had to give up her fear of hamsters to rescue him. And the creature is very excited. And she teases him a little bit. Then we cut away, and Asumi is relaxing in a bathtub, and she has little steam clouds to cover all of her unmentionables.
It's so gratuitous.
And she's like, oh, I shouldn't, Eureka's still here. I shouldn't keep him waiting so long. I should go out so he can hit the bookskin. Squeak! She looks up, and Hammy's there, and he's got his hands, his little paws together. He's like, thinking, here I am, lover. And Eureka's inside. He's just like, I guess there's something even Ashumi's afraid of. It's good to know. I can use that to my advantage. Maybe I can get her to stop teasing me all the time. And, like, I like his reality of this is like, hey, are you okay, senpai? Like, saving her from featureless rabbit faces, essentially. And she's like, gosh, thanks for rescuing me. I love how Yuega's version of her is, she speaks in the same, like, golly gee as he does. Like, gosh, Yuega, thanks for rescuing me. I sure won't tease you anymore.
It's such an innocent, nerdy way of, like, he's not even thinking about it in terms of, like, and then Asumi will be all over me, or even, like, and then Asumi will go out with me. No, it's just like, and then maybe she will not stop treating me as a fucking loser.
So stop bullying me. But instead, she leaps out of the bathroom screaming because E gets a rodent. Ah! And then we cut to the very end, and they say, from then on, Happy Hammy developed a habit of sneaking off to pay visits to Senpai. And it's just him being like, I love you! So, what we got from this is that Asumi is a little bit afraid of rodents. And there's a hamster stalker following her now.
I fucking hate that hamster. It's so weird. And I really seriously hope that this is not like a recurring thing. I hope this is just like a one-off, and it's not like, well, now that we've done this is a way for us to get Asumi all flustered, so there's going to just be rodents in like every other Asumi chapter. Because that's not the part of her character that I enjoy. I like the part where she's just constantly dunking on Yuiga. You know, it's okay to have a character have moments of weakness in that, but if you just have that be her thing, then what's going to separate her from Fumino, basically?
Yep.
Okay. That said, let's move on now to Dr. Stone. Z equals 66 liars and truth tellers. Okay. So before it's time to get stoned, Chris, I guess we should talk a little bit about the popularity poll results that we got at the beginning of this chapter. What's going on, man? What are you staring at?
They just show Kohaku's ass.
Yeah. Get over it.
I have never really, like, before it's always been like a delicate thing to be like, no, part of her little skirt thing covers up the dimensionals. They just show her ass in this panel. I don't know if I'm I don't know if I'm comfortable with that. That's all right. Fair enough. You do you, Boichi. All right, carry on. Sorry, I didn't notice that before when I first went through this panel or this series.
So we first start off with the Japanese poll results. You got Senku number 1, Kohaku number 2. It's a little bit of a surprise. Gen number 3, I get that. Suika, Chrome, Ruri. Who's fucking 7th place? I can't actually see it in here. Hyoga, that's the big surprise, I think. But not too big a surprise. He's the cool, dark Sasuke type dude. Byakuya is number 8. Kiseki is number 9. Then you get Taiju number 10. So not too off from what you would expect in general. All the characters that even show up in the 2 pages of poll results, like, okay, yeah, they're a character that's been important or has shown up a lot, except for Sulfurina, which I can understand that one. She did have some pretty that embodiment of the gas did definitely have a lot of big memorable moments. But let's talk a little bit about the English poll results, because number 1 was Senku. Number 2 is Kaseki. Holy shit.
Nick.
Awesome old dude. Got his peanuts, Chris.
Finally got his peanuts.
Hey, he's got people who love him, Chris. That's all he wanted. He wanted people who were his friends.
Oh, and he reached over when he was thinking about the people who smile makes him smile. He reached over and he doesn't have a wife, so he just grabbed like a hammer. But he grabbed his hammer and he had a really sweet moment. And I was behind the theater like, you cocksucker! Stop doing this! Ah, damn it!
Then we got Chrome, Kohaku, Suika, again, Taiju, Ruri, Kinro, Tsukasa. So in general, like, a lot of similarity between the two, and then really no big surprises, but except for Kaseki being second most popular among English readers. So there you go. All right. That said, getting into the chapter proper, Taiju and Yuzuriha, as we kick off Liars and Truth Tellers, go over to the spy that was sent to monitor them. And they're like, hey, your name's Nikki, right? You should come over. We got something for you. She's like, no, my job is to watch you guys. And I was supposed to make sure you weren't, being suspicious or doing anything in secret. And I wasn't supposed to give myself away, but I guess there's no point in me hiding, if you know that. So I'm not your friend, and I don't want to be your friend. So go away. And I'm sorry, I just remembered what happens here. She's like, so the only thing you're allowed to say is agree with me and just go, yes, ma'am. You can only respond with 2 words. If I hear a 3rd word, you're going to be tasting my fist. And Taiyo goes, please just listen. And she punches him in the face. And of course, it's Taiyo. So he just, takes it. And she's like, oh, he just took it. And he's like, I don't care. Punches him again, and he's like, listen, you can beat me up as much as you want, but in return, you have to listen to us because my friend's got some important info.
And presumably, she has actually punched him. You could see the effects of the fist hitting him.
And he's just like not even missing a beat as her fists are landing. Cool little moment for him. So, time skip. They just show her the phone. And on the other end, Gen performs his, I don't know how this is possible, physical transformation into Lillian. Does the impersonation of her. And Taiju's, of course, Taiyo doesn't know what's going on, so he's just like, oh, that's the American singer, right? So Nikki's like, of course I know who that is, you asshole. Senku introduces himself as Lillian's interpreter, Sebastian. And Taiju's like, that sounds like Senku to me. Oh, no, wait, you told me to keep quiet. Okay. Well, he's like a dog, isn't he? So Lillian says, I'm calling from the U.S., people of Japan. Are you listening? It's like, oh, you hear that? We're saved! Fucking love Taiyo. So Nikki is like, hang on now. Lillian was in space. Wait a minute. Don't translate this. I might be really tough now, but back in my school days, your songs meant everything to me. She's actually a super fan. And she just goes on this long little, I will do anything for you, Lillian, but if it turns out someone's impersonating you, they will know my anger. And Gen is like, oh shit, this is both the best and worst of circumstances. God damn it. So, Gen says like, hey, Senku, I'm not sure about this. Things seem to kind of like go wrong whenever you try and help out people here. And Nikki says like, sounds like your voice is off somehow. And, if it is really you, I apologize, but I will ask you something only the real Lillian would know. How many CDs did you sell in total? And again, just like, okay, well, there are 3 options here. We could fool her and claim being petrified gave her amnesia, guess, or feign outrage. Those are our options. And Senku's like, no, option 4. Get it right. And he just performs some calculations in his head. And he's like, all right, this just calls for a quick Fermi estimate, a logical approximation. And he just calculates himself. I was like, okay, the Soyuz rocket would have cost this much, equals 5 billion yen. And then she must have been worth twice that, which is this. And so that if we calculate royalties in reverse as it's over 60 million CDs sold, but I can't be more specific. So Gen relays this as like, well, we had a party recently to celebrate passing the 50 million mark, but I'm not, I can't be super accurate about it. Maybe we could revive my manager and ask. And Nikki just says, that's about right. So then she says, I can't believe this. This is so weird. All right, well, get these numbers right, and I'll believe you. And Gen's like, yes, if we've got Senku's awesome brain here, as long as it's something you can calculate and bullshit up, then we can do it with your Fermi whatever and can get it done. What are your 3 measurements? I don't know why this chapter is so amuses me so, because it's so stupid. But so Senku's just like, okay, hang on. And he's like, well, there was a pic that he sent me, and he's of course got perfect fucking recall, because there's no way his cell phone works. So he's just got perfect recall based on exactly what the picture looks like that Byakuya sent him. And he's like, okay, if I could compare relative sizes with Byakuya's height and the equipment around them, 88 centimeters, 65 centimeters, and 85 centimeters. And so they say this, and then Nikki says, well, your public profile always claimed you were smaller. And Senku's like, oh, of course a pro would fucking fit that. Claim to be slimmer. So Lillian's like, well, I just told you my actual measurements. And Nikki's like, but if that were the case, you would never tell a fan the truth. Even in this world, Lillian would remain a pro. You would never toss away that carefully crafted fantasy, which means you're not Lillian Weinberg. It's the fucking reversal. I'm sorry, I love this chapter. So, again, it's like, I don't know what I should do here. I mean, like, this mega fan, like, I feel like if she heard the song, it would be obvious, because she would, be able to tell the difference between the voice. Maybe we should, I don't know, should I, like, try and smooth things over before we do that? And Senku's just like, we're going to play the record. And he just says, look, we're going to, play this nice, smooth playback, and instead of bluffing, we're going to bet all of this on science. And they play the song, and Nikki is like transported back to this live concert with Lillian striking a pose. Like, I'm not sure if she's got like some Michael Jackson rods going up into those heels of hers that keep her from toppling over, but it would be difficult to strike that pose in normal shoes, and she is wearing like 5-inch heels. So there, yeah.
That's a performer for you, Nick.
Damn right. The power of music allows her to defy her anatomical structure, which is actually larger than what Nikki thought it was. But anyway, so Nikki, remembers back to just, being, like a middle schooler, listening to music and stuff. And she says, yeah, I'm not mishearing. This isn't a fake. I've listened to this song hundreds of thousands of times. And she realizes Lillian's gone, right? She's lost forever. And Senku says, that's right. And Nikki says, you've revived this piece of her. She lives on through this song. So let me ask you a science question. Would it be possible with, your ability to like bring back more of her work and get just say yes. And Senku says, nah, no. There is no way that, media has survived that long. But I will promise you this. No matter what, I'll preserve this final song of hers with the power of science. And Nikki is openly crying at this point. She says, you know what? You're an awkward guy, but you wouldn't lie about science, right? That's what I'll put my faith in. And she kind of goes, I can see myself falling for you. And Senku's like, yeah, no. I'm married to science. So he basically just tells her, like, look, if we're going to, flip anyone Tsukasa's army, then this record's going to be essential. So, and you know what? I know for a fact you would die to protect this record, right? So I think that our interests are actually aligned here. And Nikki says, you're right. And you've got yourself a deal. Whatever your scheme is, I'm on board. And I guess she symbolically whips off her cloak to acknowledge that she's joining the kingdom of science. It's cold. You're going to want to wear that, girl.
It's winter.
It's winter. Wear the cloak. I fucking love this chapter. I really do. I like the interaction between Nikki and Senku. I love the interrogation by the superfan, and I love that Senku's bluntness carries them through this, despite the fact that they thought that they were going to trick everyone. It seems like a much more, Senku way of doing things, honestly.
It's fine. I didn't love this chapter. I thought it was amusing, but like having not known Nikki whatsoever prior to this chapter, not even like really having more than like a line from her, was sort of just like, it was hard to really get fully behind it, but it worked. You know, I'm sure we'll get more of her in the future, and she's going to be like a pretty important character going forward then.
People in the chat. But did Lillian ever win a Grammy? The mark of the great.
That is the only way to determine whether or not she's a good artist.
All right. Okay, let's move on then to
Is it Seven Deadly Sins? I don't know how our order goes anymore.
It is time for Seven Deadly Sins, yes.
All right, chapter 275, Together as One. So last time, we sort of just continued the whole revelation that Estarossa was actually male, and at the very end, Gauther showed up and was like, hey, it was my fault. And this chapter kind of starts off basically with a continuation of that line, with him being like, yeah, it was me, so destroy me. So Male's like, fire! Just starts beating the shit out of him, just smashes him, you know, going through it. It's just like, you made me hate my respected brother.
Offering accepted!
Yeah. But you made me admire Melodius, that demon, as my brother. You stole my grace and my sense of what is right. That's an unforgivable sin, and I'm going to destroy you. And he keeps trying to, like, break him. And he's, like, asking questions. And essentially, Gauther gives the explanation we kind of already knew. Like, the balance in the war was a very precious thing. Melodius had just shifted over to the goddess's side. That would have put too much strength on the goddess's side, so they needed to move someone over. So they took you, who, you know, kind of gives him a compliment where he's like, you were an equivalent power to Melodius, and we brought you in, and we made you one of the new demon lords, and it was a way to keep the war from, you know, reaching fatal levels, and it brought the holy war to an end. And he's like, oh, well, if that's what happened, I'm going to make you feel I'm going to make you feel even 1,000th of the pain and suffering I have. And he's like, what the fuck? Why don't you feel pain? He's like, I'm a doll.
This isn't fair.
And he has this face where he's like, you better be fucking kidding me. How am I supposed to enact my revenge on a doll who doesn't even know what pain and suffering is? But then King shows up, and Gauther's like, no, what are you doing? He's like, hey, rule 4 of the 7 deadly sins rules. And I was like, are there actual numbers to these? And the rule is, when a teammate's in trouble, the rest do everything in their power to help them. And the Estarossas, or males, are like, oh, good, I can make you feel the pain. It just starts going after him. They start having this
big fight. No, my perfect plan.
They start having a big fight. Gauther's like, no, I'm the one who did something, just destroy me, leave King at us. King's trying to do these big attacks. He hits him with Spear of Judgment. And Estarossa, Male's just holding it up with his hand. He's just like, the more you resist, the longer this is going to be. And we see the other two archangels who are like, what are we going to do? Guess we better get involved too. And the one with the multiple faces, I can't remember the names of these guys. Tamiel, I guess. Tamiel's like, yeah, we better go back up Male. The other one's like, no, we have to help the 7 deadly sins. Because, like, Male, they say, like, I know, but he's lost his grace, and due to that, he's awoken as one of the 4 archangels, and he has almost complete control of the power of that commandment that made him go berserk. He's the most power of the 4 archangels, which is exactly why he's able to do that. But in the end, the power of darkness counters the power of the goddesses. Can't you feel it? Every time he uses his power, his soul is further eaten away by the darkness. So they have to save him as a comrade by fighting against him to keep him from falling into this darkness. So, it's basically King and Gauther trying to hold on against him. King's doing a couple counter moves, and again, Gauther's just like, stop, why are you doing this? I don't want to lose anyone important to me. And King says, if you know how sad it is to lose someone important to you, then don't go talking about dying like it doesn't matter, okay, Gauther? And then the 2 archangels join in, and it's going to be a 4-on-1 fight against
ding, ding, ding.
Male. Pretty cool. I like this moment of, like, the 4 of them going up against Male, because holy shit, does Male feel like a terrifying figure in this chapter.
Yeah, he's really been built up, too, to this point as well.
Yeah, he has just been smacking fucking everyone around. So, pretty cool chapter. I'm pretty interested to see where this goes.
I also really like the 2 black wings, 2 white wings look on him. Mm-hmm. All right. That said, then we are going to move on from there to the Promised Neverland, chapter 95, let's go home. So last time, fucking Oliver decided to address the problem of Emma is mortally wounded and desperately needs to be taken back to the hideout that the old man was staying at in order to get medical supplies to help her, by saying, like, leave the wounded behind, including me, save yourselves. And so we get a little bit of a flashback from Oliver's perspective from the time that Lucas first saved him and, treated his wounds. And he's like, even if we run away, this place will still exist. So I want to put an end to this hunting ground. And Lucas was like, okay. And he's like, and Oliver thinks to himself, he is my lifesaver, my mentor, and
credits.
Yeah, that's the end of the chapter. All right. So Oliver repeats the suggestion and clarifies, like, you guys need to save yourselves and save Emma, and there are all of us who are so injured, so you should leave us behind, and that would solve everything. And you guys can take the shortest route. Everyone else could take the safe route, and and then everyone will be fine. And if you don't take the injured with you, then Nigel, Violet, they could protect everyone. And Lucas is like, no! And Oliver says, you helped us. You gave us knowledge, skill, a reason to live, and a family. You allowed us to stay and fought with us. You don't know how much that saved us. You're the closest thing to a father we ever had. To us, you were a lifesaver, mentor, big brother, and a father. And Giselle's like, yeah, we've all decided. And there are other kids like, yeah, from the beginning, we're already prepared. We don't want to be a hindrance for you, everyone, and Emma to live. Please leave us behind. And Lucas is like, no, a real parent wouldn't leave, wouldn't have to let you go on and have this vendetta. I was just scared in that moment. What do we do after we get out of Goldie Pond? Do we live in a world full of man-eaters? Could we even do that? Our one hope, Minerva, may be an enemy, and that guy might have already been dead. Oh, no, I can't leave you. No, to even think. And Rachel's like, we're not leaving anyone behind. Everyone shut up.
I have the best plan. Shut up.
And the old man just like, yeah, Emma would never be happy with this, so no.
Shut up. I'll explain the plan.
I'm going to explain the plan. Shut the fuck up.
It's time for me to be a big hero. First, let me kick this table. Boom, look how cool I did. Guys, we're not leaving anyone behind.
All right, now set that table back up so I can jump over it, and then kick it again. Ha!
I'm going to jump and kick it. Falls asleep. Nobody saw that. Fuck Batman. Fuck Batman. Screaming it. Fuck Batman. It's cool to say fuck Batman.
My mother told me that monsters aren't real.
Oh, wait, my mother was a monster. I remember because my memories.
Oh my gosh. DC presents Titans, starring #Ray, 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 and introducing #Ray.
It's just him across the room from each other.
You're from the circus. Yes, I am.
Thank you. I am pretty awesome. Thank you. I'm very smart. That's how I knew it was you.
Where's Batman? Fuck Batman! Ah! Look, I broke that guy's neck. Look, so much blood flew out of that guy's neck when I stomped on it. It's impossible, isn't it?
It's 6 of them all screaming "fuck Batman" over each other. Like, fuck Batman! No, fuck Batman! Fuck Batman! Fuck Batman!
Batman! They're like Pokemon.
They're all just trying to edgelord over themselves.
Oh God. So Ray says that he's going to go with Nigel and Violet and go with the main group to escort people to the shelter, and he's going to leave Emma in the old man's care and trusting her to take the very fastest route possible. So he's basically going to travel the lightest in order to get to her. So a bunch of the kids are objecting, like, no, you guys are still alive now, as long as you're, it's Oliver. So they're like, no, it's still dangerous, and we can't move. We don't know if we'll even last the 3 weeks. And there are kids like, well, you're alive now, so we're going to help you and try and help you live, and we're going to carry you, we're going to care for you, so we're just going to do this. And Ray's like, you assholes can die later, let's go. So we get a bit of a montage from that point. Lucas declares that he's going to be using the last resort, and he gives the pen over to Nigel so that he can go and activate the self-destruct sequence, which Nigel just knows how to do, I guess.
Pretty easy. Put the key in, and it's all self-explanatory.
Big red button. So they start this self-destruct sequence for all of Goldie Pond. And then we just, have everyone setting out. Some demons are like, what's that buzzing noise? Ray kills some of the demons as they're escorting all the people out of there. The old man is booking it back to the alongside them, and then they split once they're out of Goldie Pond and go their separate ways to take the two different paths. With Ray and the old man exchanging the last goodbyes. It's like, hey, make it back safely. It's like, yeah, whatever you do. And then the Goldie Pond just like sinks into the underground lake, and it's completely destroyed. It's a really cool 2-page spread that shows it being drowned, basically. Yeah, so of our 3 main characters, Ray is the only one with the main group who is currently conscious. So, yay.
I did enjoy this chapter immensely, though. It's kind of a cool fitting end to this. Like, the way this arc ends is they literally drop Goldie Pond into the fucking, into the pond itself and just leave it there to sink. We get that as, like, the static image of, those stupid windmills in that town just buried beneath the water. It's a very cool thing there. And I really do, we always make Ray into this goofy character, but I actually do really appreciate that it was his character this time that basically, as influenced by Emma, was like, no, we're not leaving anyone behind. We can save everyone. And I assure you, Emma would not want this scenario to happen. So we'll find a way to make this work. And I appreciate that Ray's picking up that slack. The old geezer's kind of there to hang along with them. And it's a fitting,
because that's what a real shonen hero does. Doesn't just beat people, but saves them and changes them for the better. And it's 2 different people that she's had that effect on, making this kind of just carrying on that spirit of hers. Yeah.
And I will note, though, this is now the 2nd major arc that has ended with, well, we can't possibly save everybody. And someone's like, we're saving everybody. No more from here. They cannot do a 3rd arc that's like, well, we can't possibly save everybody.
And then they do.
Yeah.
I will say, though, it's kind of weird. I don't know. The way that this played out at once really bugged me and also endeared itself to me, because they were just like, you have to go on without us. This is our grand sacrifice. Shut up! We're going! It's
shut up. Stop being whiny your drama cranes.
Chris, have you ever been part of like a D&D group where somebody joined the party after the first session and then tried to make the entire adventure about their character?
Oh, you mean like what I did in Wormwick?
Well, but you were already part of the campaign.
I know, I'm fucking with you.
You're already part of the campaign. You just switched characters. But where you start to like try and make everything about yourself in terms of how you're playing your character. Mm-hmm. Like nothing really important is going on with your character, but you give yourself like big important speeches and dramatic moments and try and frame everything around your decision, try to make everything about what's going to happen with you. And then I've been in situations where someone has done that only for like the old guard basically over and be like, no, stop that. That's not what your character does. Cut it out.
That's a rough spot to be in when the rest of the party's like, fuck off.
I've had that happen once or twice in groups that I've been in where someone has tried to immediately become the big shonen hero in their like first act as a character and just be like, God damn it, I hate you. All right. Black Clover, Chris.
All right, give me a second to get to Black Clover. Fuck. Just goddamn magazine. It's so long. All right, page 165, The Black Bull's Charge. So, this chapter opens up in the greatest, greatest town in the common realm, Hekaro. And we see 3 evil elven mages. And I guess one of them is like that the Great Ice Mage or whatever. I think he's shown up before. I just completely forget every time. But we see 3 elves who are just like, this town's halfway decent. Let's destroy this and then kill humans, I guess. I don't think they have a greater goal than that, but like,
kill all humans.
and people are trying to fight. They're like, is the Clover Kingdom finished? Oh man, I'll purify everything here. And then someone's like, oh wait, someone's coming. And the one dude with earth magic's like, reinforcements? Well, they shall not pass. And his spell's completely ineffective because their stupid bull just charges through it. And there's like 4 fucking panels of these characters just like, screaming at the screen.
And Asta and Magna still have food in their fucking mouths.
And there's, I don't know why, it's this weird, I don't know how long they're still fucking eating. And like Rebecca hangs out the window, or not Rebecca, Vanessa hangs out the window and like throws all of her threads around to try to pull these rocks from falling down. And Charmy throws out all these, fucking wads of cotton to keep people from being hurt. And we see Gray somehow got out already and she's turning rocks into sand so it saves people. And some of the elves are like, well, you're not going to save anybody. We can easily destroy this. And they use the surging waves and a whole bunch of water and everything like that. And a combination attack. And it's going in on both sides. And even ice is going to try to pierce and basically destroy the rock creature. And the ice dude's like, what? My attack didn't hit. And Vanessa's like, no, something black bulletin. Says it with their tongue out, so I assume that's how it sounds. And I know that this is established to be the power, but fuck, this team's unstoppable. Nick, I think the Black Bulls might have finally surpassed Etchison as being the most broken team in existence, because they're like, oh, well, we have a dude who can just counter everything.
I like how you say they're the most broken team in existence, even more so than Etchison. Yeah. Not say Gaku, just Etchison.
Because, think about it. They have the ultimate offense in Asta who can counter anything you ever do without limits. And then Vanessa's stupid power, which is just like, you can never kill us as long as I have magic. And then they have a fucking person out there who can just re-heal everyone's magic with food immediately. So, when the Black Bulls together, no one can beat them, I assume. I don't know. Henry loads up his big cannons, and we see Magma, Luck, and
Gordon,
there's his name. They all use their different magic, and it basically is amplified with the cannons of Henry's attack, which is kind of a nice touch. So, Henry's like, oh, I can amplify your magic because I know you all so well, and I'm so happy to be finally fighting alongside everyone. And I guess I'm trying to think what the point. I guess the blast just hit the people, and that hurts them, and it stops them for a moment. So they're trying to do a combo spell.
The 3 different blasts that Magna and Luck and Gordon all launched each hit a different one of the mages, and they're like, we're not done yet. Even if you manage to dodge this, the townsfolk are toast. And they all get together and they're like, spirit bomb.
They use this big thing. And they shoot Asta out of a cannon. And he not lethally subdues a man by impaling him with a sword at 1,000 miles an hour. He's like, yeah, we're good guys. I'm like, there is no way this guy isn't dead. You shot him like a bullet. I don't care if that sword is nerfed. You killed that man.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I still don't like Black Clover, guys, but I would be insanely cold-blooded and not being true to myself if I were to claim that the giant castle transforming bull robot that shoots magic spells out of its shoulder and chest cannons didn't look really cool.
It looks fine. It looks cool. I'm sorry. I got so distracted by the end of this chapter of Asta, like, I've been launched into them, and then just holding the guy with the sword and being like, yeah, we did it. And I'm like, there's no way that guy isn't dead. I almost want to create like a parody series of Black Clover that only I enjoy, but it's all these scenes of Asta doing these things, but it's actually like he thinks they're non-lethal, but he totally is like impaled that dude, and the guy's like viscera is like falling to the floor. He's like, I did it, guys! I saved the town and everybody inside of it. The one dude's just like, my daughters will never know what happened to me. Hey guys, hey Charmy, you got any more of that food? As Asta wipes this man's skull off his foot.
He's like drinking his liquefied brains from the maw of the skull. It's a good thing I managed to take the elf possession out of that guy and not kill him.
I'm such a hero. Oh my god, this series. Alright, let's do one.
Anyway, now that we've decided not to kill our enemies, let's use blood magic to brainwash them instead.
Yeah, now you elves will know that humans were never the bad guys, because we made you think that we're the good guys. Colonialism's great.
Alright. Let's finish it off with One Piece. Chapter 911, Adventure in the Land of Samurai. Are you okay, Chris?
I'm sorry. Alright, so I have some very, very, like, just derpy, meme-heavy friends. And I didn't realize this is chapter 911, essentially. And I just reminded of the fact that one of my friends is very proud of the fact that he has a bottle of grape soda in his room that expired on 9/11, and he refuses to throw it away.
Is the bottle full?
Yes.
Oh, God.
That's it. That's the end of the story. I just have a weird friend who keeps a bottle of soda in his room.
Is this the same friend or a different friend than the one who has a picture of himself as the background? Okay.
This is Sock Shoe guy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he's a freak.
Do you have like any normal friends, Chris? Am I the most normal friend that you have?
You very well might be. Far and away winning that.
All right. And I do a podcast with you. How big of a freak am I?
Exactly.
All right. So, the last chapter of One Piece, Luffy washed up alone with 1,000 Sunny on the shores of Wano and came across a samurai-wielding baboon and a lion dog thing that were getting into a fight. And Luffy has a lot of, there's a weird thing going on. Oh, well, reactions in this chapter, like so many all throughout it. So he's just like, it's a wild something versus a wild something. Oh, whatever. Just don't hit the ship, okay? He just starts looking around and he remembers what actually happened in the last moments that all the Straw Hats were on the ship, which included Sanji calling out to Nami and Carrot to grab onto him so that he could jump them to dry land, and Chopper being like, Sanji, what about us? No, you guys are too heavy. Only the girls may cling to me. But Luffy volunteered himself as a trampoline. And was just like, here, use my tummy, Sanji. And so Sanji bounced off, and then Luffy's like, all right, now it's my turn to escape. Don't worry, Sunny. We'll come back and find you later. And I want to know if the 1,000 Sunny has a worried expression on its face while he's saying this. It's very small, but you can see, like, the sweat drops on it. But as Luffy went to jump away to safety, the fucking octopus that was on board earlier just grabs onto him and prevents him from getting away. He's never going to be a Straw Hat with that kind of obtrusive attitude, Chris.
No.
Not endearing himself to the crew.
We needed to see like maybe a backstory or something from him sometime soon.
A tearful backstory.
It's great. It's just the backstory is him like losing his hat and like drifting away and him being like, oh.
I do love how distraught the octopus looks while he's doing this. Like clearly he just doesn't want to be left alone. He just wants friends.
That octopus wants his peanuts. It's old people and octopus, the two people that need to get peanuts.
Heaven forbid we ever see an old octopus in One Piece. So Luffy was sucked down into the whirlpool that they had landed in, and somehow they ended up on the beach. He doesn't know exactly where he is. So he's like, oh no, and I've lost the Viva card in my hat. It was supposed to be here. I lost it. It fell into the sea. Oh, well, whatever.
Luffy's hat. Yeah.
Then we cut to further inland where there is someone on this weird lizard mount thing with a prisoner in tow. And she's, crying out to him, saying, hey, have mercy. I didn't say anything. I didn't say nothing like that. And give me back my rice. And he's like, I heard what you said. You said you were a servant of the wicked Kozuki clan, which is a serious crime. You'll either be sold to the pleasure district or thrown in jail. But not killed, because you can't kill someone in One Piece, Chris.
That is true.
That's why Nami and Dojiko's mom,
they're
thrown in jail.
Fine.
She's fine. She's fine. So, but they come across the baboon that's fighting with the lion dog thing, and is also, of course, fighting near a ship. So they're like, oh, okay, well. Let's go check that out. We found it, and there was a ship trying to illegally enter the country, so let's go and investigate. And there's only one person there. And someone on the mount is a sniper, and he's got a gun. He just points at the back of Luffy's head. It's like, all right, I'll put him to sleep with this, and we'll bring him back, and he'll be a good manual laborer. And then just a shadow appears next to his head. He's just like, what's that? And Luffy has no look backhanded him from like a football field away by stretching his arm. It is so cool because it's, the stretchy arms equivalent of the no look, just back fist, but he has to whip around behind him to do it. It's so awesome.
It is pretty dope. Yeah.
And of course, Luffy's just like, who the hell are these guys? And so one of the guys tries to take aim at him, so he punches the mount in the jaw and knocks it into the guy riding it to knock him out. And then he, calls over to the baboon and is like, deal with the Komainu leader. Capture him now. No, in fact, kill him. Just kill him. And the baboon's like, with its sword. And Luffy just goes, what? And the baboon's like, oh, shucks.
Oh, jeez.
Luffy's like, that's better.
Bitch.
And then the girl that he had taken captive baps him on the back of the head with a club and knocks him out. But then she suddenly raises her arms up, and Luffy says, what the hell are you doing? And she says, it's the surrender pose. I'm surrendering to you. And we're introduced to her as Otama. And Luffy says, well, I'm not going to hurt you. I'm not going to do anything. And so she's like, oh, well, in that case, this is a good opportunity. And she pinches her cheek and pops a piece of it off, calling it a millet dumpling, which I don't know exactly what the hell that means. But she then manages to toss it into the baboon's mouth and immediately starts obeying her, just tames it instantly. And so now she has managed to get this baboon to be on her side. So we don't actually get an explanation of what her devil fruit ability exactly does yet, but that's definitely an interesting one, especially in the form that it actually takes. We're just going,
yeah.
So, Luffy's just like, you get powers. Okay. Hey, so are we in Wano? And, of course, immediately they start getting along because they're, allies in this situation. And she explains that her bodyguard, Komachiyo, the lion dog, or Koma Inu, is protected her from the baboon when they sent it after her. And that was why they were fighting in the first place, because basically they were the pets of different masters. But Otama's in a pretty bad situation because they took all of her belongings away and she was captured. And she just says, like, yeah, they did it because I got frustrated when they did that. And I just, shout out, oh, when the Kozuki clan comes back, you guys are going to be in big trouble. And that's against the law. You can't do that. You can't declare yourself to be affiliated with the Kozuki clan for some reason. So she says that for saving her, because she might have never gotten to see her home again. She says, "Let me make it up to you." And Luffy's like, "All right, yeah, I've got a bunch of stuff that I need to ask about." And all of a sudden, his stomach goes. It's like, right, you need food. Okay, I'll get you food. So they ride off on her her two mounts. I do like the way that they are introduced, which we get, Koma Inu, Koma Chiyo, and then new friend Hihimaru. So, aw. And so she's talking a little bit about herself while they're going. Luffy actually establishes, because we see a bit of a small shot of the Thousand Sunny being left in this like kind of hidden archipelago. And she's like, yeah, the bad guys won't find it there. And Luffy says, yeah, thanks. I'm sorry. I thought that we had food supplies on board. So presumably maybe they were swept away or something like that when the ship was sucked into the whirlpool. But she's like, hey, it's cool. I'll go feed you. And they talk a little bit about stuff. And she establishes that because Luffy actually asks, hey, you must have a village in the mountains up here. And Otama says, nah, it's gone now. And he's like, But Otama says, I just live with Master now, and in the future I'm going to be a bewitching Kunoichi. Okay, I guess everyone in this world either wants to be a ninja or a samurai. Good to know.
That's how Japan world's got to work.
That's Japan, right? Yeah. just like how in the Old West, everyone either wanted to be a cowboy or an Indian. So she feeds him some steamed rice, and he eats up, and Luffy actually does, bizarrely enough, kind of have good manners in this sequence, for him, I should say, because he's chowing in. It's like, hey, don't you want any? And she says, no, a kunoichi's got to be light and nimble. He finishes up immediately. He's like, more. And she's like, oh, well, I haven't cooked any more rice. That was the last of the pickles that I had. And Luffy's just like, oh, I was just joking about seconds. I'm full now. He's licking the bowl. She's clearly hungry. But she goes off, and Luffy thinks to himself, she didn't make a lot for me, but she did make it for me. So that girl's a good kid. And I do like seeing this side of Luffy where it's like, yeah, he's still this belligerent kind of jerk, but people who are nice to him, he knows to appreciate that. Then someone storms in wearing this Tengu mask. So immediately Luffy's like, "What? Usa? Oh no, wait, it's not you." He's also got what looks like big old like angel wings coming out of his back in the few images that we see of him, and of course he's also got the big long clogs. I'm not sure what you call those exactly. And he's like, who are you? You dare to eat the rice? And Louis like, yeah, who are you? Imbecile! He knocks him out of the house and starts scolding him. And I can't believe you did that. And Luffy's like, hey, she made the food for me to eat. And he's like, why would she cook for you? Do you know how many days it's been since she's had anything to eat? And of course, Luffy has no idea about this. And we cut over to Otama briefly. She's kneeling at a river and drinking water. And she just, you stop gurgling stomach. Stop being so shameful. And the man says to Luffy that she weaves hats day in and day out, earning barely enough to survive the day if she sells the whole allotment. At best, she gets an occasional meal of crude millet, except for the 2 days a year she's able to have rice, her day of birth, and the New Year's Day. I sent her to market today to buy the rice for her 8th celebration, so why have you eaten it? But Otama comes rushing back in at this point, and she begs for forgiveness for feeding Luffy like this, but she did it because he saved her life. So, so she begs for mercy, and she says, I'll weave more hats, so have mercy. But then all of a sudden she starts coughing, very, very badly, and he realizes immediately, he's like, you drank from the river to quiet your stomach, didn't you? And Luffy's like, well, what's wrong with the river? And he says, the rivers of this land are polluted with the waste runoff from Kaido's factory. For a young girl like her, she might as well be drinking poison. There are safer places she could live, but she chooses to wait here instead for a man who promised he would come back to her. A pirate by the name of Ace. That's still not at the end of the chapter because we established that Basil Hawkins is on his way going to seemingly investigate the area where the Thousand Sunnies showed up. But wow, so that's a lot to digest, isn't it?
There's a lot. This is like the start of the arc, so they're throwing a lot of information in. This does give some different context to different things. There's the scene way back when Momonosuke and the older one, whose name I'm forgetting right now, they got food and they just ingested it with such kind of like glee, like in a proud moment. I've seen people retweeting it. Maybe that gives a different context to that scene, that maybe they also have been kind of functioning under the same thing where it's like food's kind of a privilege in this area. Kinemon, that's correct. Where food's kind of like a privilege in this area, so it's something that generally they refuse. So it's interesting to think about different things like that. But to be honest, the number one thing I took from this, holy shit, Basil Hawkins going to be coming. And I'm super stoked about that. He's my favorite one of the supernovas, and I want to see him do more.
Right. And so there seems to be some more like personal stakes being added to the Wano arc here. The connection that apparently Ace had with this place, Luffy's friendship with this new character with Baby Nami. So looking forward to seeing more. And let's close things out then by declaring our favorites for this week in Weekly Manga Recap.
I'm going to give my favorite series of the week. I'm going to be giving to Seven Deadly Sins. I really like this chapter.
All right. I'm giving mine to Dr. Stone. I really like the interaction between Senkugen and Nikki. I liked the just kind of the general like just roller coaster that there was going through everything. The son needing to make stuff up on the fly, and then everything just kind of comes out to just blunt honesty and winning her over that way. And my favorite character this week is Luffy. Just so many funny moments. The very, very brief fight with the back fist and everything. Really cool.
I'm going to give it to Ray. I think this is a cool moment for Ray to show off. I really dug it. We don't honestly give too much credit to regular Ray because we're always busy with hashtag Ray, but yeah.
All right, and that is going to do it then for this week in Weekly Manga Recap. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll record the show on smashcast.tv/RoloT and twitch.tv/RoloT. Thursdays, currently at about 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is the start time. If you need to stay updated on that stuff, you can follow us at Demember Podcast. It's the official podcast account. At RoloT and at Nick F. Time are your two hosts. Check out our past episodes at weeklymangarecap.podbean.com. You can also subscribe to us on iTunes, subscribe to us on YouTube, comment, rate, all that stuff to help us become the kings of the hobby section on iTunes and defeat the woodworkers and end their horrible splintery reign. If you want to send us feedback, ask us questions for a future Q&A episode, or just suggest manga for us to read for the show, you can send all that stuff via email to weeklymangarecap@yahoo.com, or check out our Discord server. There's an entire sub-chat there specifically for recommendations and tracking recommendations and discussing the current recommendation, which is Hinamaruzumo. Special thanks go out to our Patreon supporters. Your support allows us to create all sorts of fun bonus content for you guys to enjoy. Thanks as well go out to Steve Mann, our tile card artist, and Infamous Planet for the stuff that you do for our show. And that's going to do it.
Yes. I didn't get to mention this at the start of the show, and by the time next week rolls around, it's going to be old hat. But my movie theater decided to take part. I don't know if you've ever been to like when a local baseball game, like a AAA team does it. Sometimes during the in-between innings, they have like two groups go against each other. So our theaters were doing it. It was us against like a local team. And I told them, I was like, I knew one of the things was like pie trivia. If you get a question wrong, you get pied in the face. I was like, you know what? I don't really care. I told them, I was like, yeah, I'm up for that one. Day comes and there's a new event added. Hot dog eating contest. No one else wants to do it. So I'm like,
oh no.
Fuck. All right, I'll do it. So the contest is to eat 3 hot dogs in 30 seconds or whoever's the furthest along. So there's 3 hot dogs, 3 of us, 3 hot dogs each. And I'm like, we get water, so I'm already thinking, I'm like, all right, dunk it in the water, try to get through the first one, we'll go from there. So it starts, and I can't see it, but the guy on the far end from me grabbed all 3 hot dogs and just shoved them into his mouth and thought that was enough to win. But then the guy's like, you have to swallow. So he tries to drink water. Does it. Vomits everything out.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Everywhere. The guy next to me sees it and just gives up. He's like a hot dog and it's done. So I'm like, a hot dog and a half. And I'm like, oh, I can just stop now. And so I win because they're just like, well, he clearly did enough. I look over. It also happens to be Wet Nose Day, which is anyone can bring their dogs to the park. And there's just dogs happily going to town on all of this dude's vomited up hot dogs. So I'm over here doing Hulk Hogan poses as these dogs are just devouring this one man's poor shame that he just spewed over everything.
That sounds like a Hulk Hogan match. All right,
exactly.
That's going to do it, everyone. We'll check you out next time at Weekly Manga Recap.
Dot.
What a story. All right.